Hi, and welcome to this week's broadcast. There is a quiet but persistent theme emerging across research and reviews, and that is that older adults don't always experience the criminal justice system in the same way as younger people. So, on paper, the framework is clear. Policy, guidance, and legislation all emphasise equality, protection, and access to justice. But practice tells a more complex story. And what research highlights is disparities that give us reason to pause. So, criminal prosecutions involving older victims remain comparatively low. And then crimes such as burglary or theft against older people often have lower clear up rates. Abuse in later life is frequently reframed as a safeguarding issue rather than recognised as a crime. And this reframing matters because once something is positioned primarily as a care or welfare concern, it can unintentionally move away from criminal investigation, and with that, away from accountability. So, in terms of the question of how we see people, at the heart of this sits a more subtle issue, and that is how older adults are perceived within systems. So reviews and research point to a tendency to view older people prominently as vulnerable, possibly dependent, possibly in need of protection, all of which may be true, but what can be lost is the recognition that they are also rights holders, potential witnesses, and individuals entitled to justice, not only care. And when this balance tips too far, it can shape decision making in ways that are rarely explicit but highly influential. The barriers to equal justice are rarely about a single point of failure. Instead, they sit across the system. That means assumptions about evidence. Older adults may be perceived as unreliable witnesses due to age or health or cognitive concerns, sometimes without fully exploring that. And then when it comes to delays in investigation, the time lost can mean evidence lost, particularly in cases involving neglect, financial abuse, or coercion. And then what about reluctance to criminalise? Because many older adults are dependent on those causing harm, who may be family members, making the pursuit of criminal outcomes complex and at times unwanted. Then, when we think about practitioner understanding, there's evidence of a more superficial understanding of abuse in later life, with less confidence in navigating these cases through a criminal justice lens. So, none of these sit neatly within one agency, all of them sit squarely within the scope of a review, a multi-agency review. If you think about guidance from the Crown Prosecution Service, it's clear. Crimes against people over 65 can be specifically flagged, treated with age-related targeting as an aggravating factor, and supported through special measures to enable evidence to be given effectively. The framework exists, and yet organisations like Hourglass and HMIC FRS continue to describe older people as the poor relation within the criminal justice system. This is not about absence of policy, it's about how consistently and confidently it's applied. So this is where reviews have a critical role to play, because it's easy to record that a case wasn't pursued criminally, that no prosecution followed, and that a matter was managed through safeguarding processes. But the deeper questions are, number one, why was this not seen as a criminal matter? 2, what assumptions influence decision making? 3, how did system pressures shape the response? 4, what would have needed to be different for a different outcome? Without these questions, we risk reinforcing a pattern rather than understanding it. If we are serious about improving outcomes for older adults, our reviews must do more than just document the disparity. they must explore the interaction between safeguarding and criminal justice pathways. So surface unspoken assumptions about age, capacity, and credibility. Understand the lived reality of dependence, fear, and relational complexity. Identify where systems unintentionally deprioritize criminal justice outcomes. And it's not just about pushing every case toward prosecution. It's about ensuring that age does not quietly shape access to justice in ways that we fail to see or fail to question. Older adults are not a homogenous group. Their experiences, wishes, and needs are diverse. But one principle should remain constant. Access to justice should not diminish with age. And where it does, it's the responsibility of reviews, not just to note it, but to understand it.